Okay, so this video will be about how to edit verbs in your writing. The first step, just as it was with nouns, is to identify the main verbs. Verbs can be action words that tell the action of a sentence, or they can be stative verbs that describe a state of being. There's always at least one verb in a sentence. Sometimes there are two, if there is a connecting word in the sentence. So let's look at this sentence. When students editing their writing, their grades can much higher. Obviously, this sentence has some mistakes, but when you look at it, you should be able to identify two verbs because of the connecting word when. And the verbs that we identified were editing and can. Next, we need to ask ourselves a general question about the sentence, or if you have written a paragraph or essay, a question about that part of your writing. What verb tense do we need? If we are telling a story about the past, we would need past tense verbs. If we are making predictions, we would use future verbs. But if we are talking about general truths, as in this sentence, we should probably use the simple present. Many verbs in academic writing use the simple present. After we determined what verb tense we need, it will make it easier for us to analyze the verbs. When we look back and see a verb that is in a different tense, we can ask ourselves, is there a reason this verb is in a different tense? Sometimes there's a good reason, but if not, then we just have to be able to change it. Okay, so now that we analyze the general tense we need, let's have some specific questions. The first question is, what is the verb tense of the verb editing? Of course, this verb actually is just an ing word by itself. So when we ask ourselves the next question, is the verb correctly formed? It's not correctly formed. We're not able to have a verb with ing by itself as the main verb of a sentence. We could have it with a be verb, but that would be either past progressive or present progressive, or which talks about things that are happening right now. And that's not what we need for this situation. We just need a simple present verb. So in this case, we need to remove the ing and make a simple present verb. So would it be correct to say students edit, or is it correct to say students edits? Hopefully you know that students are they, so we don't say they edits, we say they edit. So now that we have that, we can answer our last question. Does edit agree with the subject? Yes, it does. Let's repeat the same process with the second verb, can. What is the verb tense for can? This is a modal verb. Other examples of modal verbs are must, should, might, may. Okay, but this has a verb form problem. It is missing a main verb, so we need to add a main verb. We could add a main verb like be, their grades can be much higher. Or we could add a main verb get, their grades can get much higher. Does this verb agree with the subject? Yes, it does. We don't need to worry about agreement because we never use a third person s with modals. We always just use the modal and then the base form of the verb. So this with can be or can get would be correct. So here we see our final edit. When students edit their writing, their grades can be much higher. Here are two more sentences. Take a minute and see if you can identify the verbs and then see how you would correct them. You can pause the video if necessary. First, let's identify the verbs. In the first sentence, we have the verb tell and the verb need edit. It's okay to have two verbs because we have a connecting word, that. In the second sentence, we have didn't like and made. And we have a connecting word here too, which is because. So let's analyze the actual verbs in the sentence. The first verb we have is tell. Well, when we analyze this whole sentence, one of my professors always tell me that I need edit my writing. We see always is a clue that we should use the simple present because we're talking about a general truth. So here we could say we have a verb, tell, which is in the simple present. And it's probably correctly formed, but does it agree with the subject? What's the subject of this sentence? Hopefully you can identify that the subject is one. because whenever we have a prepositional phrase like of my professors, it's not the subject. So one is a third person subject, like he or she. Do we say he tell or he tells? Hopefully you said he tells, so that's what we need to fix here. I need edit. This verb is in the simple present, need, and it agrees with the subject I. In fact, there's a verb form problem here because we can't just say need edit. We have to change edit to edit. That is an infinitive. That will be the correct form. And I'll reveal all these answers in a moment. Okay? I didn't like to edit because I afraid that I made the problem worse. What verb tense should this be? It's possible that we could put this sentence in past tense, but again, it's probably more likely a general truth that we should put in the present tense. But this verb is in the past. There's no adverb or anything that tells us that it's in the past, so it's better to use the simple present. So instead of didn't like, we should say don't like. I don't like to edit because I'm afraid that I made the problem worse. Again, this verb is in the past, but we need it to be in the present, like I make the problem worse. Did you catch one more problem when I read this sentence out loud? I don't like to edit because I'm afraid that I make the problem worse. It might be better to say I will make the problem worse, for example, by editing. But there's even one more problem. Can we say I afraid? No. We need a verb. In fact, this sentence is missing a verb. So we need to put a be verb here before the adjective, afraid. So let's look at the final edit. One of my professors always tells me that I need to edit my writing, and I don't like to edit because I am afraid that I will make the problem worse. So hopefully these steps will help you with editing your verbs in your writing paragraphs and essays.